Hello and welcome to another episode of the Arseholics. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd really appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button if you enjoy the episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Aaron and Raj, how are we doing today, boys?
Yeah, good. How are you? We never really ask how you are at the podcast. We try sometimes.
It's taken like 14 episodes or whatever it is.
All right, go on. Give us 5 minutes. Give us 5 minutes to tell us.
I don't need that long. I'm all good. Happy days. It's another happy day. So Arsenal losing at home to Olympiacos today, but going through 3-2 on aggregate. Well, I guess we're through, but wasn't really a particularly enjoyable game. Wasn't a very good performance. Let's have a look at the lineup then, because there were a few changes again. Some enforced, I guess. Saka, again, wasn't fit, wasn't in the squad. Odegaard was rested. Aubameyang came back in the team. Elneny started in midfield. And the back four remained the same, which I thought was quite interesting. Same centre-back pairing, for the last three games now. Olympiacos away, then Spurs, Olympiacos again. What were your thoughts on the lineup, guys?
Yeah, I thought it made sense. Given, a lot of people were expecting loads more rotation, but actually we couldn't afford to relax too much because this is, our number one priority at the moment, and we have to play to get goals. And I thought Pepe starting made sense. Let's assume Odegaard needed a rest. Let's assume Partey needed a rest. It made sense to play players like Elneny and Ceballos because we weren't desperate for goals, and it was more important not to concede rather than to score. So, yeah, I could see the logic behind the lineup. I wasn't really annoyed by it at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. No drama with the lineup. It was more intriguing to see how we'd actually set up, given there was no obvious number 10. But yeah, lineup-wise, perfectly happy with the level of rotation.
Cool. I was actually surprised, to be honest, that he played Elneny. I appreciate that we had a lead to kind of sit on, but it almost sent the wrong message in some ways. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really work out in terms of result. But yeah, so in terms of the first half, I don't think it was a bad half from Arsenal's perspective. We seemed to control the game quite well. I don't think we really dominated possession, but we seemed to allow Olympiacos to have the ball, and we looked pretty comfortable. There was one kind of horror moment when the keeper hit it long, and not really sure what happened. Seemed to always have one of those moments, at least one of those moments in our games. Gabriel and Luis both sort of just let the ball go straight over their heads. Not really sure who was guilty in that one, but luckily Leno saved with his leg one-on-one with El Arabi. Very, very lucky actually to not concede there. We had a couple of decent chances. I think Aubameyang had one. He went through and goal from Ceballos and kind of skewed a toe punch shot, went over. What were your thoughts on the first half?
Well, I think, the fact that the first thing you mentioned there was the Olympiacos chance from Route 1. And the fact is that happened on around 18 minutes. So that says something in itself about the fact there was nothing really to speak about in the first 20 minutes, right? And I actually thought we started okay because I quite liked the fact that the tempo we played at was quite good, and it felt like we just picked up where we left off against Tottenham system-wise. I know, it became clear Ceballos was playing in that number 10 role. And we commented on there being a few funny movements from Aubameyang going wide, and often Ceballos seemed like the player who was furthest forward in the middle. But aside from that funniness, in that aspect, it seemed like our tempo was okay. Structurally, it seemed to make sense. We were in control. And yeah, that chance happening on 18 minutes from El Arabi, Route 1, which was terrible. Like, it was just, that classic moment that we seem to have every game, isn't it? Where it's inexplicable. It's obviously something that you don't necessarily even have to think about in training. It's just an outright error. And we were lucky, and it was a very good save. And we were lucky. And then after that, as you say, Miles, I think there were a couple of chances. Ceballos, set up probably our two best chances of the first half.
Yeah.
It was the Pepe one where he kind of went through. He managed to go around the keeper. I think the keeper saved it, and then he kind of was a weird angle. Probably should have passed. I think on reflection on that one, shouldn't he?
100%.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with that one. I just thought, I mean, this is the thing with Pepe, and again, we could get into a long discussion about another one of our players and what we think of that particular player. But with Pepe, he's clearly got the talent, right? He's clearly got the ability, and it's so frustrating because, you know, he shows his pace. It's a really well-timed run as well, and obviously Ceballos finds him really well. He manages to get to the ball first, and then, I mean, I don't know why it is. Obviously, his left foot is his strong foot. That's an obvious thing to say, but it almost felt like he could either just play the Aubameyang in on his right, with his right foot. Sorry, he obviously tried to kind of bend it in with his left, and he just completely fluffed the shot. And it's just another one. He had another one in the second half, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Just really, really disappointing. Again, it's a game where he's got a chance to start and just didn't really take it. Yeah, just quite disappointed with that, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think with Pepe, like, the talent is clear, yeah, and when he gets it right, you know, sometimes he's unplayable. But I just think his decision making is, it's just sometimes it's just awful. Like, when does he go inside? When does he go outside? And it almost seems like he just he picks a harder option every single time. And, you know, sometimes it comes off because he's actually got the ability to beat 2 or 3 people sometimes when he comes inside and turns himself into trouble. But yeah, he doesn't need to make life difficult for himself. And I wonder what Arteta actually thinks of him and his decision making, and what are the conversations he has with him in training. Because yeah, like you said, the talent's there. He's not a bad player. But yeah, to go back to the first half, I know you guys think we were right. I thought we were pretty rubbish, to be honest. Like, quality wise, I know like at the end of the first half, like, at the end of the day, the goal was, let's get through the tie, right? And 0-0 at the end of the first half is fine. But performance wise, I thought Ceballos had a few good moments, but was largely quite poor on the ball. Actually, to be fair, I think almost every single player was quite bad. It just looked lazy. It looked tired. It looked like they assumed that the job was done. And that does concern me, because it felt like a mental thing rather than a tactical or quality thing, because we were clearly better than them.
I did feel, you're right, like, in the sense that I did feel that we made it look like the game was a bit of an inconvenience. And you know, as I said, okay, fine, I was quite happy with how we controlled the game in that first half, but whenever we got the ball in that final third, and we see this quite often, you know, it's Tierney who's always flying the flag. It felt like Tierney was our best attacking threat for the first 15 minutes. And aside from him, no one was really doing that much. I think Ceballos it felt like Ceballos was auditioning. You know, it felt like, you know, he was trying to do something. And in fairness, as I said, like, I think 2 of our better chances came from him setting them up. But I do agree with you. I think you used the word clumsy when we talked about it before. And I think that was right. I think, you know, we looked clumsy on the ball. But it felt like, to me, given the situation and given that, you know, we were 3-1 up initially, and ultimately we're playing against a team who is coming with the intention of scoring goals. They have to score goals. They've got no other option. And then when you restrict them in the first half to one chance, essentially, which was a route one, it feels like you've managed the game at least quite well from a tactical perspective, from setting up. If you've restricted a team who've come out to score to one route, one chance, then in theory that's okay. But I do agree with you on the ball. I felt like, you know, we were off the pace. I think, sorry, just to add, I do have concerns sometimes with the fact that, you know, sometimes in these games, we rely on Tierney to be producing on that left-hand side almost all the time. And I really noticed today how Bellerin really struggled to make any kind of similar impact on that right-hand side, to the point where it almost felt he hardly entered the final third. I don't know if that's a genuine tactical thing that,
I think it is, because I think I've noticed it in a couple of games. Maybe didn't notice it in today's game as much, but I feel like we seem to build up play a lot on the right and almost bring a lot of the players on the pitch over to that side, which creates a space for Tierney and whoever's playing on the left, ESR. And then that outball's always there. Not always the case, because a lot of the time we do build up through the middle and then onto the left, and it's a bit of, you know, that acceleration from Tierney or an overlapping run from ESR, and then Tierney's got the space to kind of run in behind, where he seems to cause some damage as well. But yeah, I have noticed that build up on the right hand side and the ball gets played out to the left where Tierney's got a bit of space. Hopefully it's tactical.
Yeah,
from Bellerin's point of view.
Bellerin's going through a bit of a difficult period at the moment, I think, with he's not starting every game. I don't think it's clear if he's first choice right back anymore because Cedric is playing relatively well. To be fair, I don't think either of them are playing that well, but the fact that Bellerin started the season as first choice right back by far, so much so that we shipped out Maitland-Niles because we didn't think he would get a game. And now, sometimes he starts, sometimes he doesn't start. Even today, he got taken off after about 79, 80 minutes, I think, for Chambers. There's something not quite right going on at right back with us. And I don't know if that's because, it's well documented that, like, when Arteta first arrived, like very similar to Pep, he likes having one of those fullbacks that tucks in and can play in midfield. And Bellerin isn't the type of player who's going to sit in central midfield and start dictating play. And perhaps that's why he brought on Chambers, because he wanted someone who could sit on midfield. But I wonder long term if Bellerin is who Arteta wants at right back.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like, and maybe the answer is neither, but it's almost like, is Arteta looking at his fullback system and comparing it more to the City system or more to the Liverpool system? And in some ways with Tierney, it looks like more of a Liverpool system because he is like Andy Robertson, just on that side, just marauding down, genuine goal threat, always trying to get round to the final third to put balls in constantly, right? And he's got that amazing curved run that he does. But at the same time, if Liverpool do that on both sides, you've effectively got the same system on both sides. And like you said, I think with City, it's more of a expectation for fullbacks to be able to tuck in. And maybe this is different. Maybe actually Arteta's got his own thing, but I think that's where I struggle to see Bellerin. I struggle to see what his specific role is as a right back in this new Arsenal. And I think your point about Cedric's interesting because I think we expect less from Cedric. So when he plays well, I think it looks like, well played, Cedric. And I think we're still hanging on. Well, I'm still hanging on anyway to that Bellerin who was right back in Team of the Year many, many seasons ago when he had all the promise in the world.
Yes. Okay. So second half, we come out, Olympiacos probably came out stronger, which was probably a bit expected really, considering the situation, and they obviously needed the goals. Came out a bit revved up, and not too long after the first half started, they got their goal. So we lost the ball really high up the pitch, but as soon as we lost it, that was it. I think they had more, there was more Olympiacos players running at our defense. I think it was like a 5v3 or a 5v4, something like that. But we seemed to really back off a lot. Luiz was backing off a lot all the way into the box. Just nothing, no one, I don't know what was going on really. We just seemed to allow them or El Arabi to come run directly at goal. And obviously scored for a deflected shot. And I think at that point, we all started to worry a little bit. How's this going to go? Is this going to be a repeat of the last time we played them?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I think we came out the second half and it was a bit of a repeat of kind of the themes of the first half where we looked, if anything, even more sloppy and more lazy and more tired than we did in the first half. And it was slow, it was lazy, and it just seemed like a very uncharacteristic goal for us to concede, because usually it's like a major defensive error. And I didn't think it was a major defensive error where someone got it badly wrong. It was more just the team decided to stop defending. And it was a very strange goal for us to concede.
Yeah, I disagree on a couple of things. Like I think that, I don't want to go over it again, but I think actually when we started the first half, I felt like we had a plan. It looked like we had a plan and it felt like we had a tempo. I agree to the point completely where it was a horrible start to the second half. The first 5 minutes were just, I thought it was embarrassing. We were all over the place. And the other bit I disagree with, I think Luiz was awful for their goal. Like, I think he was really bad. And I think he's been really quite good for us recently, actually. And arguably one of our better players recently, to be honest. But if you watch it again, he backs off and backs off. He doesn't even really, it's so casual. It's so casual. The way he just kind of stands there and he's gone, all right, I'm going to put my hands behind my back so I don't concede a penalty. And I'm just going to sort of stand here and do a little shuffle. And it's so easy. At the end of the day, that's that's a typical type of incident which would allow a player to shoot and it might get a deflection and it might go in because you've not been able to close it down. And we deserve to concede defending like that. I thought it was really, really embarrassing, and he should know a lot better.
Yeah, and I think when I say it wasn't a major defensive error, I think every goal we concede you can probably find fault in, but it wasn't one where we deliberately shot ourselves in the foot with doing something stupid. It was more of that was a symptom of the mentality of the team's performance so far, where it was just like, this is very chill, this is very relaxed, this is very casual. And Luis's defending was just very casual. I think if that was a big game and it was 0-0, I don't think Luis would be defending like that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of worrying, really, to think about it like that. But yeah. So Arteta reacted straight away, didn't he? Made a double substitution, bringing on Thomas Partey and Odegaard, El Neni and Ceballos coming off. Odegaard looked impressed as soon as he came on. He brought a lot of control to the game, I thought, which it looks like a good sub from Arteta from that perspective. You know, we obviously know his qualities on the ball, holds possession really well, generally makes a good decision when he chooses a pass. And we seem to get, despite playing as badly as we did in that second half, we seem to actually get quite a few chances. There was, I'll just reel them off. The Pepe one where it comes across to him and he makes really good contact, but it unfortunately hit CSR, and I think otherwise that one's probably going in. The Aubameyang one where he's clean through on goal, and the less said about that one, the better, really. I mean, it was such an awful finish. I don't know if it's one of those where he just had too much time to think about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, he should have scored at least one today, really. Was there another one?
There was Odegaard had a chance himself before.
Yeah, Odegaard had one. And after Martinelli came on, obviously there was a red card as well, but we'll talk about that. But Martinelli came on, he set Aubameyang up, didn't he? And Aubameyang had the kind of back heel shot saved really well by the keeper, and then it came back out to him and he just, went straight over. Obviously, had the chances to maybe just shore up the game so it wasn't a nervy ending, but I think luckily / probably saw kind of Olympiacos' quality, really, that we weren't really that much more troubled in the second half by them. So it ended up being a fairly comfortable second half, I would say. Don't know if you guys agree. There was the sending off. So after Martinelli came on, Raj, you pointed out, didn't you, in the chat, that he made an immediate impact.
Yeah. Half jokingly, but I guess at the end of the day, he did. There was a good run by him, trying to just, he really, really powered through on that left-hand side. And I think it was an absolute deserved first yellow card. I think we agreed potentially the second yellow is maybe a little bit harsh. I think if it goes against your team, you're probably unhappy about that. But in the rules of the law, it's a yellow card. He's not allowed to do that.
What did he just like kind of slapped the ball out of his hand in petulance? Was that all it was?
I think he slapped it towards. I think he did that, but he did it almost at Martinelli.
See,
and then
that's
Arsenal,
what the commentator said, right? And I thought if he did that, it would have been fair enough, a second yellow card. But if you watch, they showed a replay. Like, they didn't show a replay at the time, which was quite frustrating. But about 10 or 15 minutes later, if you see what he did, all he did was, like, he hit the ball. He just basically threw the ball down in frustration. But it wasn't even that angry. He kind of just whacked it on the floor. And I don't think it was near Martinelli. I think it was a...
But that's interesting, Aaron, because you're right. Because, I didn't show the replay. But part of the reason why I thought he must have done that is you saw him apologize to someone on the floor. Because he kind of did, he kind of hits it. And then he kind of just goes, okay, sorry.
I think it's one of those where he's done something stupid and he's realized, oh, shit, like, I shouldn't have done that. And then he's doing the whole apology thing to kind of almost make up for it. Maybe.
I think, honestly, if an Arsenal player got a second yellow card for that, I would have been fuming with the ref.
Tierney kicked the ball away earlier, about 10, 15, 20 minutes earlier, whenever it was. Like, we conceded a foul, ball was on the halfway, and he just smashed it. And he just got a warning. So, I think it was really, really, really harsh sending off. Not that I'm really that bothered,
I think the ref was on a bit of a power trip with that one, in my opinion. It was desperate. I felt like he desperate. He wanted to do it, and he enjoyed that red card. But
Yeah.
it was very, very harsh. But hey, we'll take it. We need the luck, every bit of luck we can get right now.
Yeah, and I think, before that, Miles, getting to all the points that you were talking about in terms of chances created, I think the key takeaway points for me was when Odegaard and Partey came on, we just fundamentally looked like a better team again. Fundamentally
you
better
say that
side.
about, sorry, I was just going to say, you say that about, I agree with Odegaard. I'm not sure about Partey. I don't think he had a very good spell, half an hour, whatever it was.
Yeah,
we talked sloppy. He gave away dodgy fouls. He was trying, he does that. I think we talked about this last time. He has the ability to get the ball out of tight spaces and take players on, but then it does go wrong sometimes. And he did that again near the edge of the box, I think, and gave away possession. Yeah, I didn't think he had a very good half an hour or so. Personally.
Well, see, I think there's a nuance because, as I said, I think we looked a better team. And I think what I mean by that is when Partey plays, for some reason or the other, it feels like other players elevate. And maybe it's kind of because people like Xhaka know that, all right, well, he's there and he can do some of these things. So it felt like as a unit, when they both came on, we as a collective unit, we got better. But I agree, 5 minutes into him coming on, he conceded like a really dangerous free kick.
Dangerous,
really dangerous. Second time in 2 games he's done that.
It came on, yeah.
I think to your point, Raj, the reason we looked better collectively when Odegaard and Partey came on was mainly because I thought Ceballos and El Neni were pretty terrible. So,
I thought El Neni was all right, to be honest.
Really?
I think it was. Yeah, I think
it was. He didn't do anything wrong, but
he did some nice things in the first half. Yeah, but that's what you expect from him, right?
Like that's what you expect. He just is solid all round guy. He's never going to do anything great, but he's not going to do anything terrible. Yeah, you don't mind having him in the squad, but I don't think you can really expect much from him. So yeah, when you bring on a £50 million player, you kind of expect him to be better than El Neni, right? I'd be a bit concerned if he wasn't, but you're right. Some of the tackles just unnecessary, playing us into trouble with like a bit of sloppy passing. But then there were a few bits of quality in with it too, right? And he just needs to I just feel like he's just not very settled this season. It's been so stop-start. Just needs a run of games, and he needs to start playing 90 minutes regularly for us to get the best out of him.
It's interesting because, there was that interview with him. I think it was an interview, but I remember it was an article in Athletic which really covered his transfer. And it seemed to allude to the fact that him coming to Arsenal, one of the things that has attracted him is almost a promise of being a bit more than just a defensive midfielder. But it's interesting because I think when he's played for us, I see his better games as when he is playing as this kind of more of a defensive midfielder, to be honest. And he's not trying so much to make things happen, I suppose. Like, I think that I wonder whether Arteta's looked at it a little bit and thought he needs to restrain him in some way, because I think he's got some way to go if he's going to be able to be a guy for us who's going to be completely box to box, scoring goals, creating chances, as well as doing all the defensive work. Maybe it's just time that he needs to adapt. I'm not sure.
I kind of see him as someone who is going to keep the ball, like keep recycling possession, pick up the ball off defenders, and play it into midfielders, wide players, and just ensure our play is like nice and tidy. I don't think he's one who's going to get on the highlights reel that often, right? Because I don't think he's going to do anything super spectacular. I don't think he's going to get assists. I don't really expect him to get that many goals. I just think he's someone who you put in the team, and then, like you said earlier, the whole team functions better because he's moving the ball around a lot better. I don't think he's doing that enough yet, but there are certainly signs, and there are games where you think, wow, I'm so glad he's there, because what he's doing is something that no one else in the team can give us.
100%. And I think it's without question that regardless of any of the criticisms I think we've said on this, he's still our best central midfielder.
Yeah.
Like he is a quality player. And it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see how he gets after he has a period of not being stop-start, like you say, a bit of a consistent flow. And also it'll be really interesting to see if next season it is Xhaka who he really starts with. But I think, for now, There's a number of games left, obviously, and he's going to have a huge part to play in our season, whatever the case. And I just hope that he can stop with these silly fouls or in these dangerous areas, because that's really not what we need from our experienced central midfielder.
I agree.
Agreed. So we're through to the quarterfinals. Interesting that, well, I was going to mention something else, but I was just going to go through the teams that are left. So there's still a few big teams left in the competition. Granada are through, Roma are through, and then looking at the games that are currently going on, United have got about 9 minutes to go, and they're currently ahead 2-1 on aggregate. Rangers are now probably out, it looks like. So Slavia Prague through, Villarreal look through, and same with Ajax. So a few big teams left. One team that did go out tonight.
Olympiacos.
Yeah, Olympiacos.
A big Greek side went out, and then there was this minnow from the English league who've gone out today. So yeah, I mean, we may as well talk about it because we've been wanting to since we started this. So what do we say about Spurs?
Wow,
what is there left to say about Spurs, really?
Wow, you can't make this up, can you? I mean, let's be really clear of the context. This team that they've gone out to, they were 2-0 up going into this game. The team's manager is in jail. He's in jail.
Oh yeah. I forgot that. I heard about this.
It's even worse. He's in. Let's be clear. He's in jail for embezzling millions from the club. The president is his brother, and the president is wanted by Interpol.
No way.
I didn't know that. Oh, mate, this is not a normal club. Like, this guy survived multiple assassination attempts. Like, there's loads of extradition, like it's all an absolute mess. There's a hilarious story, by the way, about him and Eduardo, like about how Eduardo da Silva, when he played for Zagreb, he took him to court because there was some random clause in his contract which meant that he had to pay 50% of his salary to the owner's family for his whole career.
What?
And then it's honestly, it's bizarre, and Eduardo took him to court and ended up winning. But like, this is not a normal club. Yeah, as I say, like, manager in jail, it's an absolute mess. They're 2-0 down, and they've just rocked up and then beaten a team with Harry Kane, Gareth Bale, Jose Mourinho as manager. It's an absolute joke. I mean, this is an awful result. This is worse than if we had gone out to Olympiacos tonight. It would have been terrible. It would have been awful. Yeah, we would have probably, like, your biggest Arteta defender would have probably still, he would have been wavering. Yeah? Like it would have been huge. This is worse. Zagreb are worse than Olympiacos, and we're in an absolute state. There is no way you can lose that game. Sorry, let me rephrase. There is no way you can get knocked out in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know where you start. I think Spurs are such a weird team this year, just because I don't think they're that good. They're a team that I think have two very world-class players in Kane and Son, but that is all they are. And I think if those two aren't scoring goals or bailing them out, there is very little substance behind that team, from the defense to the midfield to the manager to the way they play. And the only way Spurs win is by Kane and Son doing something special. And let's be honest, they are two very, very good players, and they this season have been very, very special, and fair play to them. But that is it. That is all they are.
And you'll recall at the start of the season, Aaron, when we talked about expected goals, and Tottenham had this a real anomaly, right, where they had scored way more goals than their expected goals suggested. And really that came down to the fact that Son and Kane, well, Son in particular, I think, was just finishing from situations that he really had no right to finish from. And, and they were so clinical. But, there's lots of criticisms about using expected goals, but I think expected goals are interesting in this case because they prove to be true. And ultimately, when those guys stopped being super clinical, well, it just dropped off a cliff. the amount of goals that they scored, because they weren't playing, like you say, there was nothing really much more to their game. And like, it's a real, there's a lot of players in that team who are worth a decent whack. Yeah. Bergwijn is worth a decent whack. In Ndombele they paid a lot of money for.
Like, you didn't say worth a decent whack. You said
they bought them.
Okay.
They bought them for good money. I apologize. Yeah, they bought them for good money. And, you've gone and loaned this club legend who has won all kinds of crazy things and is on a 500k a week or whatever it is. Like, this is gross mismanagement. It's awful. Like, it's terrible. And for a situation where they were, doing very well in the league to where they are now, and getting knocked out like this, where you've hired a manager where clearly this is no long-term build. This was a come in and win a trophy and put us on the map. They didn't mean the League Cup.
No,
the League Cup wasn't what they were talking about, and they're in the League Cup final still, fair enough. But they got Man City, and it'll take a miracle for them to beat Man City. Let's be honest. Even though I know they've beaten them once this season, but it will take a miracle for them to beat them, like the way things are now. And then you've got to look at it and they go, there's no saving grace. Because at least with Arsenal right now, what we can say is this is a rebuild, and we've hired a manager with that in mind, and we can see progression in what's happening at the club. But Mourinho wasn't that, and Tottenham are not meant to be in that phase.
And it was so predictable, wasn't it? Sorry, I was going to say it's so predictable. I mean, there was obviously going to be some initial success, not in terms of trophies, but, in terms of performances and results. He'll get the team playing, but you could see this coming a mile off. And like you said, how key Kane and Son are to them. Son didn't play today, right? I think he was injured.
No, he's injured,
game. I mean, not surprising then in that sense they put in a poor performance. Sorry, Aaron.
No, I just wonder what Spurs fans feel, right? Just, do they?
So I've got a few Spurs fans. My brother's a Spurs fan. Yeah, a couple of good mates. Yeah, I've got actually know quite a few. They didn't seem all that surprised, to be honest, and I think they just put it down to Jose. They said that he approached this game in quite a defensive manner. I think I didn't see the game. I only saw a couple of the goals, so can't really comment for myself. But yeah, the kind of view I got, the opinion I got was, yeah, they came in happy to protect a 2-0. And they said it was quite similar to what happened in the Arsenal game, where they didn't offer anything, and then the last 10 minutes they went kind of all out, and we obviously ended up sitting back and taking on a lot of pressure. And but obviously it's completely different, right? Because the quality of the opposition, it shouldn't be the case. But they didn't seem really that surprised. I think they maybe expected it as well.
Yeah, it's like Raj said, right? With us, you can see we are on a journey, and I personally think that trend is definitely upwards. With Jose, they banked on now. This isn't. He's one of the highest paid managers in the world. Mm-hmm. They've given a contract till 2023, I think. They brought him in to deliver now. Jose isn't someone who builds legacies. He isn't someone who brings through academy prospects. He's someone who buys relatively expensive players and squeezes the most out of them for 2 years, wins the trophy, and the third season it all goes horribly wrong. But you've had enough success in those 2 years that you think, oh, well, it was fun while it lasted, and then you sack him and then you get someone else. But he hasn't delivered anything. This is the second season when it's all supposed to work out well. And yeah, they could win the League Cup, and for them, that's probably success. But is that really worth? This is like Kane and Son's peak years. This is when they are going to be at their absolute best. These are the two best players in the, I don't want to say the history because I don't know a lot about them, but in the last 20, 30 years, right? They're going to leave soon, and they're going to go and win trophies. And I would be very worried if I was Spurs fans about, not today in isolation, but more the direction of where they're going, which is very standstill.
The other thing I say, Aaron, to add to all that, because I think everything you just said is spot on, is I think maybe there's a little bit of bias coming in here, but I don't think it is. I still don't think Tottenham are a huge, the club name isn't a massive pull for players in itself. Okay. And so I think that they are in a very precarious situation, because it doesn't look like they'll finish in the top 4. Yeah, they probably won't. And they clearly can't win the Europa League. Therefore, they're not going to be in the Champions League this next season. they're probably not going to be in the Champions League next season. I think that puts them in a very difficult position. I'm not really sure how many players are going to go, good players are going to say, well, I want to go play Europa League football at Tottenham. And like to your point, how much longer are Kane and Son going to go, yeah, let's stick it out? How much longer? So I do think it's a very precarious situation. I think when Arsenal were in the, been playing Europa League football, we've still had pull, and I don't think they'll have that.
Do you guys think, or what do you think for Jose in terms of his future? And do you think he could be off this summer? Do you think he could potentially go before the end of the season, or do you think they'll still?
I don't think they could afford to sack him. I think Spurs they're pretty skint, just like we are, and Mourinho is on silly money. I simply don't think they can afford to pay 30-40 million to sack him 2 years early.
Exactly that. I think it's exactly that. I think if it wasn't for that, they'd be sacking him now. If it was because if money wasn't an issue, then you'd sack him now and hope that another manager will come in, and you've got a half decent squad of players. Maybe there'll be a reaction. You might be able to claw your way up the table a little bit, maybe, and clearly get someone who can build a style and maybe be more long term. But they can't afford to. I think to that point, Aaron, they simply cannot afford to sack this guy.
So do you think if you're Jose Mourinho and let's just say one of Kane or Son goes this summer, right? A big bid comes in for him from a bigger club, and one of them goes, which is quite likely, I think, could very, very well happen. Jose Mourinho, and then Levy turns around to him and says, "Look, we haven't got the money. We're not in the Champions League now. We haven't got the money to go and essentially replace, apart from what we've just maybe taken in for someone like Son. Almost you're going to have to work with what you've got, and we'll get a couple of players in, but it's not going to be at the level of who you've just lost, essentially." Do you think Jose will want to carry on with that? I say project, it's not a project, but do you think Jose would want to carry on? I know he'd obviously be getting the paycheck, but it's not like there wouldn't be other clubs that would probably want to have him.
Would there though? What other clubs do you think go for Jose Mourinho right now? Which clubs need Jose Mourinho right now?
Not in the Premier League. I mean, I was thinking more outside of the Premier League, and I wasn't thinking of one of the top clubs. But I don't know. I just don't know what would be appealing to him to stay at Spurs apart from just collecting his paycheck.
That's it. I don't think.
Or do you think that is it? Yeah. Do you think
he's perfectly happy? He's getting paid a lot of money. For me, Spurs getting rid of Poch and getting Jose in is honestly one of the worst decisions I've ever seen, because for us it's fantastic because they were a top club. They were such a top club on the up. They just made the Champions League final. Like, they were so close to winning, well, not so close, but relatively close to winning the Champions League. And they got rid of Poch. And maybe you could argue when he got sacked, they were doing pretty badly. But to bring in a short-term manager when you're on the verge, you had two world-class players, and all you need to do is supplement them with a little bit of quality, and you would have gone on to win more things. Just seems crazy to me. I actually think Daniel Levy is actually quite a good chairman in terms of the way he runs Spurs, gets a lot of money from Spurs, and manages their player contracts really well. But what was he thinking with getting Mourinho in?
It felt like it's like someone going to a casino and just winning more money than they've ever won before.
Yeah.
And suddenly going down a little bit. And instead of going, maybe I should leave at this point, going, no. I've got, I'm on the up. Yeah, I can do this. And just doubling down. And it was just ridiculous. Because like you say, I think they should have just accepted, okay, we're going to have to deal with this period this season. Pochettino's, he's probably not doing that very well this season, but he's clearly a very talented manager, and he got us to Champions League last season. We got to just grin and bear it and whatever. But they got so greedy to think they should sack him and bring in a short-term manager, like you say. Like, what is that? That's greed, mate. That's not... And I don't understand how it reconciles with their financial situation either.
Yeah,
what did they think was going to happen? Like, in a best-case scenario... Okay, I guess what they hope for, best-case scenario, is they win one of the big trophies. And maybe, that brings in money, that helps kind of attract more players. I don't know. But they are really massively in debt. 480 million or whatever, I think. Massive debts. it's not a time, surely, where you need to make Jose Mourinho type decisions.
I agree.
Well, long may it continue for us, I guess. So yeah, I mentioned the teams that are left. United have gone through now. That's confirmed. Any preferences for the next round?
Not United.
Or Ajax. Don't want to play Ajax. Hopefully they get each other.
Would you want Zagreb?
Well, why not?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I'd fancy us to be, even if we got Man United, I would be optimistic. I'd go in there and I'd be optimistic in the sense that I would think that if we play to the way that we can play, look, we played them twice this season. We won one and drew one. Okay. Like, we've got a decent record against good sides, and they're a good side, not a great side. They're a good side. Okay. And I think, fine, today we were a bit second geary, and I think what today proved is we're not yet a team that can play in second gear and win games. Mm-hmm. But I think when we get it right, and when the coach gets it right, which he seems to do, more often than not at the moment, and then when the players can step up, which they do, it feels like we're doing at the moment in the bigger games. I don't know. I'd feel relatively optimistic. I'm not saying confident. Confident would indicate I assume that, yes, easy, we're going to win. But yeah, I like what we get. And I think if Tottenham had stayed in, they were my biggest worry.
Okay.
Jose Mourinho over two legs was my biggest worry.
Yeah. I think United are another weird team this year. In fact, that, again, I don't think they're very good, but they are very good at winning games this year. They're very good at winning games without playing particularly well and picking up points where perhaps they don't deserve to win or they aren't playing that well, but they'll find a way to win. And it's actually quite impressive the way Solskjaer's got them just picking up points through 10-minute spells of just being good enough, and then not doing anything stupid. And I think against us, they will probably do the same, where I can see it being one of those games where we play really well, we create loads of chances, but miss loads of chances, and they go up the other end and score, and then just keep it tight and go through. So I don't want to play United.
The Man United right now under Solskjaer remind you at all of Wenger's latter sort of years? In the sense that, we'd finish fourth constantly through just winning enough games. We just win games that we should be winning. We do enough. We just do enough. But when you looked at us, you could quite clearly see the frailties. We never seemed like a top side, in those years when we were kind of just scraping fourth every season. But you looked at it and you were like, well, we're still winning enough games to finish fourth.
Yeah.
And United remind me of that a little bit now when I look at them. They find ways of winning a lot of games.
The difference, you're right, there is a similarity there. I guess the difference is United are so reliant on one player, whereas I don't think we were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, there is a similarity there. Okay, the other team that sort of stands out, Villarreal, because is that Emery's team?
It is.
So that could be an interesting one. I wouldn't be surprised if we drew them, because that would be that would be really interesting.
Wow,
isn't it? They're doing quite well in the league, are they? I think
fifth. They started off really well. I think they're fifth or sixth now.
So that could be a really, really interesting. Oh, right. Okay. The Granada are through as well. Cool. Okay, boys. Well, yeah, it was a good night for Arsenal, even though we actually lost on the night through. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, if you enjoy the episode, please hit the thumbs up button. We really, really do appreciate it. It helps support the channel, and share us with any of your Arsenal friends or people that you know. Brilliant. All right, boys, we'll be back soon to preview our game against West Ham on Sunday.
Great. Thank
you.
Cheers,
boys.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.